Now that 2016 is officially underway, I've done some personal reflection on what I've accomplished during the last year. I've spent many hours planning out new goals and how I'm going to achieve them. And one of those goals involves a major focus on creating content for this channel. After taking an inventory of all of my responsibilities and the time that's available to me, I've created an upload schedule for 2016 that might surprise some of you who know what my daily schedule is like. But before I get into what you could expect from me this year, I'd like to talk first about some of my favorite gaming experiences from 2015 and look ahead to some of my most anticipated games of 2016. A lot of people have been clamoring about how great 2015 was for games, and when you look at the release schedule for last year, there were a lot of really highly acclaimed games released. Unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to play very many games last year, so I can't speak for games like Undertale and Metal Gear Solid 5, Rise of the Tomb Raider, or Bloodborne, all of which I want to check out and hope to have time for in the future. The games I did play, however, were for the most part exceptional. My favorite game of 2015 was without question The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This game represents to me everything that big budget AAA development should be. Not only was it a seamless, massive, and engrossing experience that provided everything a lore hunter or open world explorer could ask for, but the publisher, CD Projekt Red, showed us yet again how big game development can absolutely survive and make big profits without all the nickel and diming and shady DLC and pre-order practices most other large publishers revel in. Was there DLC? Yes, but it was affordable and absolutely bursting with value, and also only sold as an expansion on a game that already was bursting with over 100 hours of content for those who really wanted to dive in. I felt that it vastly improved on The Witcher 2 in many areas, most notably for me in the user interface, which is incredibly intuitive. It took me a lot of hours on the previous games to really tinker with and understand how to do everything, from the basics of combat to the intricacies of alchemy. But The Witcher 3 not only does a much better job of explaining all of its features thoroughly and at a smooth pace, but also with a presentation and interface that just feels right and instinctive. Huge props to CD Projekt Red for this game, and I'm still looking forward very much to the final expansion that's coming this year. My second favorite game of 2015 is one that I'm still getting pretty close to finishing, but I've played enough to know that it's going to be one of my favorite games of all time. Xenoblade Chronicles X had a lot to live up to after the well-deserved success of the original Xenoblade, and from the reviews and reactions online that I've read, most people seem to think it didn't quite get there. I'm still undecided on which of the two I like better, and the final chapters of the game may help to sway my opinion one way or the other, but Xenoblade Chronicles X has blown me away. It keeps all that worked in the first Xenoblade's battle system and makes many improvements, which results in a game that has a lot more depth and strategy in its gameplay. On the narrative side, it all comes down to personal preference, but the two games have very different types of stories despite sharing some common themes. The original game had a very progressive, forward-moving narrative that took the player on a journey with the characters, but Xenoblade Chronicles X has more of a reactionary style of storytelling, which relies on the idea of surviving and building a new life on a strange world. Everything I've seen of it so far works very effectively, and I'm really happy with the final result. The only reason this game sits behind The Witcher for my favorite of last year, however, is because of its user interface, which isn't very intuitive like The Witcher's, and much less so than the original Xenoblade. The game doesn't do a very good job of explaining all of its features, and so it takes a lot of time and experimentation to really figure out what you're doing, but once you do, it's really deep and satisfying. For 2016 though, there are a lot of games I'm looking forward to, some of which I've been waiting for since early last gen. The first release of this year that I'm keeping my eye on is Fire Emblem Fates, a game which promises to deliver a storyline with deep, complicated political themes. Fire Emblem Awakening is my favorite game on the 3DS, so this new project certainly has my attention, despite some controversial business practices like splitting the game into 3 unique storylines and selling them separately. We'll see how that pans out, but as long as each delivers the value of its final price, then I'll be just fine. The next game on the schedule is Dark Souls 3. I don't have a PS4, so unfortunately I had to miss Bloodborne last year, but the year-long break from Software has ignited my passion again after a somewhat disappointing Dark Souls 2. Luckily, the creator of this series, Hidetaka Miyazaki, is back in the director's chair for this one, so I expect it will greatly improve in all the areas where the second game was lacking. Longtime fans of my channel know that Dark Souls is exactly the kind of game that fits my personal taste, so I can't wait to see what FromSoft has for us this year. Just a couple weeks after Dark Souls 3, Nintendo is finally going to release Star Fox Zero, a game that was originally slated for last year. There's a lot of skepticism surrounding this game, and most of it's for its visuals and use of the gamepad, but with Shigeru Miyamoto at the head of development, I believe the game will deliver. Star Fox 64 is one of my favorite games of all time, and where all of the games that have followed that one have failed, Star Fox Zero looks to deliver. It looks and feels so much like Star Fox 64, and that return to form is exactly what I've been looking for in the series. Around the same time, most likely, we'll also see the sequel to Bravely Default, titled Bravely Second and Lair. Bravely Default and its sequel are the kinds of games that old school fans of Final Fantasy need to support if you ever hope to see Square Enix return to form with its flagship series. You know, there's this stigma that's being perpetuated, not only by Square themselves, but by journalists in the industry who seem to have decided at random that turn-based battle systems are archaic and shouldn't be part of modern game development philosophy for RPGs. I'm not sure who it was exactly that decided this, but I can tell you it wasn't the consumers, because we came in droves to play Bravely Default, which apparently shocked Square Enix. It's clear that they haven't learned anything from that success, however, and continue to insist that console games, and specifically main entry Final Fantasy games, need to move as far away as possible from turn-based combat, even in a direct remake of its most popular game ever that was built on a turn-based battle system. Bravely Default, and I'm hoping Bravely Second, are proof, clear as day, that traditional JRPG mechanics are still fun, engaging, and perfectly welcome with modern audiences. And no, that doesn't mean exclusively on handheld devices. And while Bravely Default fumbled a bit with its storytelling in the closing act, it was by far the best RPG Square Enix has produced in many, many years, whether on a console or a handheld device. If you love traditional Final Fantasy games, it's important that you show Square Enix with your wallet that you want to see more of these kinds of games. So buy Bravely Second if you care about that. The rest of the games on my list for this year don't really have solid release dates yet, so I won't spend too much time talking about them, considering more than one has been in development for nearly a decade, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them get pushed back again. But Final Fantasy XV, The Last Guardian, and The Legend of Zelda for Wii U are all games I'm looking forward to. Final Fantasy XV, while having plenty of development time to really come together, is still being made by the modern Square, not the one that we grew up with and loved. And so while I'm optimistic and open to its new direction, I'm also pretty skeptical of the capabilities of the gentlemen who currently have full creative control of the brand. Now, The Last Guardian has obviously been a complete mess, but Team Ico has never let me down before, and I really believe in director Fumito Ueda's philosophy, so my hopes are high. As for Zelda, Nintendo has never given me any reason to doubt that console Zelda games will always be nothing short of spectacular, so I have no worries there. My only concern is whether it's going to be released on Nintendo's next console, which is supposed to launch this year. If so, I think it'll be a big blow to many people who invested in the Wii U, but it's also the smartest business decision for the company. Either way, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing game, and I can't wait to get my hands on it, whether on Wii U or NX. So that pretty much wraps it up for what I'm looking forward to in 2016. I think more importantly than the new games that'll be coming this year, I'm more excited about my plans for the channel, which I've spent a lot of time scheduling. Basically, I'm going to be releasing videos on a weekly basis, every Thursday morning, with one review per month, which will be released on the last Thursday of each month. What this means is, you guys can look forward to my classic game retrospectives and reviews coming with much greater frequency and perfect consistency. I've already planned out the 12 games that I'll be reviewing this year, so I'll go ahead and announce the first 3 that you can expect. For this month, on January 29th, I'll be releasing a review for Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I'm nearly finished with now. For February, on the 25th, I'll release an updated version of Final Fantasy VI, and I realize that may be disappointing for some of you, but there's a good deal of work to be done on that, and it's going to take me at least a month to complete. For March, however, on the 31st, I'll finally get you guys a review for Final Fantasy X. So stay tuned, check back in every Thursday for new videos, and the last Thursday of each month for new reviews. I have to say before closing up, thank you guys very much for all of your support. It really means a lot to me that there are people out there who like to watch my videos, who, feel something, feel a passion, especially for the Final Fantasy series, from the reviews that I make. And I'm just really happy that it's resonating with people, that there are people out there willing to watch and support me. And thank you for all of your criticism over the years. It's really helped me to develop my style, and I feel like I've grown and developed and matured because of it. So thank you everybody who watches, and stay tuned. There's a lot coming here in 2016, and I can't wait to see what it has in store for all of us.